Good morning and welcome to For Fantasy's Sake, the Quad City's first and only fantasy football show. I'm your host, Doug Green, the only person who has more psychotic eyebrows and drops more F-bombs than Roy Kent. He is Chris Steele, less unassuming than one Leslie Higgins. And as you can see, one of our other co-hosts pulled a Dr. Sharon and left us high and dry.
Doug, Chris, spoilers.
I was going to say, I hope you've seen this week's Ted Lasso because that is the
Doug. God, Doug. I'm like three episodes behind.
You're 3 episodes behind?
I save them. I savor them. They make me happy.
That is me and my wife's Friday night treat. She gets home from work Friday night. We watch Ted Lasso. We watch Great British Bake Off. We have like a little happy 2 hours.
That's the only time you get to be happy is those 2 hours, Doug?
Yes.
Okay.
Dude, I've been married for like almost 22 years. Yes.
I understand.
All right. So, as you can see, yes, no DJ this week. He's off vacationing. So it's just Chris and I today. We will have Brian in the next segment for DFS, but we are going to run this as a two-man show this week. So let's go ahead. We'll fire up the rankings. But as we do that, let's be serious. We're going to start with the topic that we actually care about. WTF, Nagy. What are you doing?
Oh, Doug. It feels like a learned helplessness where you have to just accept the fact that it's always going to be this way. And they're going to bounce back and they're going to beat the Lions because that's what they always do. They beat the Lions and then all of a sudden everybody pretends everything's fine and we all lie to ourselves and we're like, oh, well, they're 500 and they're going to be okay. But every year, I think the Bears get by on not being bad enough to like bottom out because the Lions happen to be in their division and they save their butts every time.
That's fair.
I don't remember. Did he actually say that he gave up the play calling, or is he still trying to pretend like they haven't made a decision, or that they're hiding that from people so they don't have to know about their awful decision-making process?
Oh, it is, quote, all on the table, but he didn't admit
I heard that.
anything. The only fact we know that Justin Fields is starting today is because they officially downgraded Dalton last night in the team's official Twitter account. Said Fields will be the starter.
Yeah, I saw that last night and bet the under on everything. It's just, I don't think they could have done a better job of trying to go out of their way to make him look bad if they tried. Because if they tried, they would have failed. Because if you look at their offense last week, where they tried, they failed. So I think that's the only acceptable way to think about this is the moment that Matt Nagy is fired, probably around week 9, I would say, and Bill Lazor gets put in and Justin Fields gets a real offense to run that plays to his strengths. I think we're going to be happier about that. I have a feeling that they're actually having Bill Lazor call the plays right now. And I think we're going to find that out today. If we had any real idea about what was going on with leadership there's no way that Nagy can keep calling these plays.
No, not at all. A couple of things that I found quite amusing this week. One, Nagy's basically team meeting that said, what do you guys want to do? Because he had no idea. That went over. That always goes over well. You can do that. You can do that in a management situation. If that's been your management style, if you take that Picard management style from the beginning and say, hey, I'm going to take input, but I'm going to have the final say kind of thing, that works fine. In fact, that's my management style. I think it works fine. But in the macho NFL world, you can't do that. You have to basically say, we're going to do what I'm going to do. So I don't think that worked great. And then Dan Orlovsky basically ripping him a new one on Monday. In one of the best 3-minute tirades I've ever seen. It was pretty good. If you haven't seen it, go out and find it. How he keeps screaming about 149 days to get this prepared, and you've either set him up to fail or you're incompetent, and it was great.
You should have some sort of pun intended, just in case playbook of some kind. So Justin Fields' playbook should be established. You should have some sort of idea of how to use him.
Yes.
Nagy just keeps doubling down on the fact that he's brilliant. His offense is brilliant. If I just keep doing it, it's going to work. But every defense understands the offense better than your offense understands the offense. So that's not a good start right there.
Nope.
That also shows that you're not a very good teacher.
Exactly. All right, so let's take a look at DJ's quarterback rankings and make fun of those while he's in here, including the fact that he still can't tab things correctly. Mahomes, Allen, Murray, Herbert, Brady, Wilson, Lamar, Dak, Jalen, Stafford, Kirk, and Tannehill. Are we finally believing in Kirk? Because I have to make a decision this week whether I'm starting Kirk or Justin Fields, and I'm thinking I'm going to have to go with Kirk.
His head is just so intangible that I don't feel like this is a good matchup for him. I think that Cleveland's defense is better than people give them credit for. They're not as good as last week where they destroyed the world against the Bears, but they're a really good defense all around. That secondary is spectacular. Up front, they have 4 very good players. Obviously, one of the best defensive rushers in the league with Myles Garrett. So that defense is special. I wouldn't be surprised to see them take a little bit of a step back this week. But at the same time, the wide receiving core with the Vikings is so good that Kirk doesn't really have to do anything too extraordinary. And you look at the way that this season could unfold, he's going to get paid a lot of money probably just off of what he's been doing.
Yeah, true. Other guy I want to talk about here real quick is Matthew Stafford, who clearly looks to be the NFL MVP early on this season. He's just tearing it up. Really seems to have found a home out there in LA, and has got himself a really nice matchup this week with Arizona. I think that's going to be, if Brady wasn't going back to New England, I think that would be the game that everybody would be talking about, because I think that's got the potential to score a boatload of points.
Yeah. Well, Matthew Stafford has a great bromance going on with Cooper Kupp. So as long as that connection still remains there, that's going to be a fantastic matchup. I really like that Matthew Stafford has found wide receivers that complement him very well. I think that Tyler Higbee is an undercover play a little bit. Stafford really likes his tight ends. So to have him be able to have a easy, reliable source like Higbee in these games that are going to be a little tougher when it comes to just big plays, you're right. It could be a breakout game all around for a couple guys.
All right, so Rodgers against that staunch Pittsburgh defense at 13. Derek Carr is living his best life. Tyler Heineke against a porous Atlanta defense. Teddy, Fields, Ryan Jones, Jimmy G, Goff, Trevor Lawrence, and Jameis Winston. Well, obviously you're not starting Trevor Lawrence because, well, he played Thursday. So you can pull that out. There's DJ Flub number 4 already, and we're 9 minutes into the show, and he's not even here.
What did you think about Trevor on Thursday, though, Doug?
I didn't watch a second of that game. I expected it to be dog crap, so I didn't bother to watch it.
It was fantastic. Trevor Lawrence looked as good as he's looked in the NFL, and then his idiot coach managed to be an idiot all over the place, and they lost that game in the second half. It was delightful.
Oh, great. Yes. I didn't see a second of that game. I normally will at least watch a little bit of the Thursday night game, but this week I didn't have any interest in it and found other things to do. So
I think Sam Darnold is a pretty good matchup there too. Dallas doesn't have a real defense that's going to scare anybody. So that's going to be a matchup where he's really turned it around this year. And I think if Matthew Stafford and the Rams hadn't just thrown the Bucks underneath a bus last week, we'd be talking about Sam Darnold as a guy who could potentially be in that MVP conversation, comeback player of the year.
I could buy comeback player of the year, just because if you're coming back from the Jets, you should be.
That's the most awful injury in the NFL right now is being drafted by the Jets. You can see that on the face of their number one pick.
Yes, yeah, that is scary up there. While we're also in the New York region, Daniel Jones, I don't know what to make of him, man. He's bad, I guess, but maybe he's got some decent weapons, so I'm kind of expecting him to do something every once in a while. I don't know.
He's got good weapons. He's got good wheels too. I think people discount or don't think about how good he is at running football. So there's an obvious floor already built in for him there. I think that that's something that you can't really discount, because when it comes to somebody who's going to give you maybe 30 or 40 yards on the ground, that's just going to inflate those quarterback numbers. He's not a great quarterback by any means. He's a very good fantasy quarterback, though. Jared Goff, I think, could be along those same lines this week, because Jared Goff is mostly an underneath guy. And I think that's where the Bears are going to give up a lot of yards to wide receivers. So Jared Goff likes to dink and dunk. It's a good week to be a Swift owner. It's a good week to be I'm blanking on the what? On Hawkinson. What?
Hawkinson.
Yes, Hawkinson is where I was going, Doug. Thank you.
Yeah.
So it's a good week to be a Hawkinson owner. The Lions, I think, are undercover a pretty average team. They're carrying that 0-3 right now, but man, they look like they're a representative team. I don't know if you can say the same about the other side of the ball.
Actually, the fact that they don't want to go downfield actually will probably play into the Bears' strengths, because we've seen that back end get lit up time and time again. But if you can keep that, from the sticks and in 10 yards and under, that at least gives the linebackers a chance to go chase you down.
Yeah. If the offense wasn't such a nightmare, we'd be talking and hearing more nationally about how good Roquan Smith has been this year.
Mm-hmm. Not even in the NFL top 100 rankings, and the man is just destroying the league. So,
yeah, could be an all-pro this year for sure.
Yes, because the Pro Bowl means nothing.
I like Tyler Heineke as well. I think that people haven't really paid much attention to him because obviously Washington is just a train wreck. So you kind of don't really have high expectations there. He and Terry McLaurin are getting on great. So as long as that connection remains, you're going to see his numbers look good. He's putting up 1 to 2 touchdowns a week. He's been above, I think, 25 points every week so far this season, which is more than you can say for a lot of guys that have been thrown out there. So I think he is somebody that, while he is going to carry a lower price tag, he could be a good run if you're looking at DFS kind of things.
Yep, and we will discuss that here in our next segment with Brian. Thank you for the segue. So what we will do, we will go to commercial right now. On the backside of this, we will bring in Brian, who is our DFS expert. You think that's great? Wait till you watch me mess up MXP here in a second. I got the case of the DJs today. This is going to go great. Talk DFS on the other side of the break, if I can spit out the commercials. So this ought to be entertaining. All right, from the top. Bubble party experience. What do football fanatics in the Quad Cities love more than Sunday football? Tailgating and partying before, during, and after their favorite college football games. And Mobile Party Experience has the hookup for all of our tailgating needs. Mobile Party Experience offers solutions for all types of party throwers and goers. They have towable trailers that offer music, TVs, gaming, private bathrooms with running water, flushable toilets, beverage dispensers, coolers, grills, and utensils, tables, chairs, and tents. That's a lot of stuff. They have all the amenities you could want or need to host a tailgate, party, or event. Find them at their website, my-mpx.com, or on Facebook at Mobile Party Experience. Sunday is still the best day at Kavanaugh's Hilltop Bar and Grill. While your favorite jabokes aren't on the deck talking fantasy football, they are still one of the best places in the Quad Cities for your football viewing pleasure. Their back deck is ready to go for football season. Their sides are up and the heat is on to protect you from Mother Nature, where you can enjoy the Bears, Packers, and any of your favorite out-of-market teams. If outside isn't your thing, and it sure isn't mine, you can head into the remodeled area, inside bar area, and watch NFL Sunday Ticket on their numerous screens and play their adult video games. I hear they have the loosest slots in the Quad Cities. That's Kavanaugh's Hilltop Bar and Grill, 1228 30th Street in Rock Island, the non-bubble home of 4 Fantasy Save. Football season is just underway, and if you spend Sundays watching football anywhere but Van's Pizza Pub and Grill, you've been doing it wrong. Van's Pizza Pub and Grill, 3333 North Harrison Street in Davenport, is the best place to catch all your favorite games, and there is still time to make it part of your Sunday routine. Start your meal off with their famous McGuire's Original Nachos or Bready Nuggets, then ask about one of their original QC-style pizzas, or be your own quarterback and call an audible and create your own. The Van's crew will make sure your call hits pay dirt every time. Van's Pizza Pub and Grill, 3333 North Harrison Street in Davenport. Come get served.
There you go, Doug. It's not about how you do. Sometimes it's just about how you finish.
Exactly. Had a little rough patch there, but we've righted the ship, and now we're ready to go. So let's bring in Mr. Brian and talk a little DFS. Hola, sir.
Morning, guys. How are you?
Doing good.
Good.
So let's just transition right in there with Mr. Tyler Henneke. I think he was on your fireside this week. What do you like about Henneke this week?
Well, he was definitely one of my value plays. To be honest, his price tag is just one of those things. It's kind of hard to pass up, and he's got a pretty good matchup against Atlanta. So I'm okay with both of those things.
Right in that same area, Sam Darnold is carrying a similar price tag going against a Dallas defense that hasn't really shown too much teeth this year. Is that another play that you like this week, or is there a reason to kind of think that Darnold's going to regress?
No, in all fairness, that I think Heineke was 5,900 and Darnold was 6. I've actually got both of them suggested. Along with this podcast, I do several other pieces, written pieces and stuff, and that's one of my suggestions this week as well.
I was looking around at Cordell Patterson. He's had a really good start to the season this year. He's carrying a really low price tag this week. It looks like the matchup isn't great, but even when he's at like less than 5,000, is that worth it to take a shot on a guy like that?
It can be. I'll be honest with you. I've not gotten on the Patterson board, Patterson train just yet. It's not for me, but I could see why. It's just a matter with him. It's always a number of touches because he's got the talent,
right.
But you never can tell for sure what his touch floor will be. So I'm always a little hesitant.
Right.
On the flip side of that, then how do you feel about Mike Davis?
I'm not much stronger on Davis to be honest. That's neither one of those guys are for me this week, and they'll have their weeks, but it's just not for me this week.
Well, let's kind of take that same kind of thinking and turn it towards the Browns here, because you watch last week's game and they're dominating against the Bears. You think it's going to be a great week for Chubb. It ends up being a great week for Kareem Hunt. How do you kind of find a way to figure out who's going to be the guy on any given week for the Browns?
Well, that's the hardest thing. You really can't. And the worst thing is, off the top of my head, Chubb only has 6 catches on the year. Kareem, of course, is more involved in the passing game,
right?
But a lot of times he only has maybe 9 or 10 carries. I was looking at his stats this morning to see, because I'm kind of at that. I'm kind of setting one of my lineups, and I'm kind of at that last price tag between around the 61 to 6,400 range, and falling in there. You've got Carson, you've got Chubb, you've got Montgomery, you got a handful of guys, and it's really hard. And then to make things worse for Chubb owners, he's sitting at 7,000, and around 7,000. You can get somebody that is going to get more guaranteed touches. Obviously, the Steelers have struggled on offense, but like Najee Harris and all the catches he had last week, you can get him like $100 cheaper than Chubb. So it's just one of those things. It's really hard to tell from week to week. So I kind of avoid it when I can, unless it's just better pricing.
Who's somebody that you're really kind of interested in the tight end area this week?
Well, this is going to seem like the oddest name that you've heard, but for really cheap, I'm going Pat Freiermuth of the Steelers. Dalton Schultz is not a bad offset. Sometimes what I try to do, last year especially, I did this. In the first few weeks, I haven't had to, but I try to go really cheap at defense and also cheap at tight end. So this week, Freiermuth stuck out to me. The Packers actually give up the third most points third most fantasy points to tight ends. And Freiermuth over the last couple of weeks has been pretty involved. He's had 58 yards receiving, also a touchdown. So they're getting him more involved in the offense, and Ebron's being faded out. And needless to say, Ben can't complete a pass over 10 yards, but maybe he can complete one over 5. So he's thrown 98 pass attempts the last 2 weeks, even though they haven't been successful most of the time.
Yeah, I've been surprised to see Ebron fade as much as he has. Is it going to be a one or the other type of scenario, or is Freiermuth kind of taken over that spot? Because it looks like they want him to be tight end 1 on that team.
They want him to be tight end 1. I feel very confident that Ebron won't be that involved. The only concern with Freiermuth, of course, is Deontay coming back this week. But that being said, Claypool's out, so I still think the targets will be there. And you know, I'm a downhearted. I'm a Steelers fan. We're not going to win, unfortunately, but we'll be playing plenty of catch up. So
I saw the Panthers were still carrying a pretty low price tag of $3,400 this week. Is that something where people just haven't latched on to that Panthers defense being as good as they are? Because they've spent a lot of picks on making that defense good, and it looks like they've grown up and become a real defense this year that could be one of the best.
Yes, I don't completely disagree with that at all. But I don't know. We'll see this. We'll really see what they've got this week when they have to travel to Dallas. That's going to be a real barometer for how good the defense is, because the first few weeks they haven't played the absolute best offensive teams. So we'll see how they look this week. And the other thing is 3,400 for me. It's rare when I get up to that high of ceiling in regards to my defenses. It's just I don't like to spend there. So I went really cheap this week. With the Bears having so much trouble protecting Fields last week and him being the starter, I actually went Detroit in one of my lineups. And I kind of went Dallas at 2,600. So I kind of go cheap typically.
Detroit's not a bad idea. Mike Gesicki is one of the leading receivers when it comes to targets this year. At tight end, I know you gave us a really good value play. Is Gesicki a guy who's going to be worth it? It looked like his price tag didn't fit the number of targets that he's getting.
Yeah, he could be a really good play. Now, the other guy I like and wound up in my lineup was Jalen Waddle. He was more of a perfect price tag to me, and he had, off the top of my head, I believe 11 catches for like 58 yards last week or something like that. So for me, I actually preferred going towards Waddle.
With the Vikings playing against the Browns this week, it could be a little bit of a shootout there. Is Odell going to be somebody who's worth the price tag? We saw him come back last week, and you thought it'd be a little bit of a game where he needed some time to get back into rhythm. He looked great last week, got a lot of targets. Is he going to be a guy worth the price tag this week?
I'm definitely on him. He's sitting at 5,800. And like you said, Donovan Peoples-Jones actually led the team in targets for wide receivers, but he only had 52 compared to Odell. It's 51. So to me, I don't know. Odell must be ready. And he had 5 catches for 77 yards on 7 targets last week. So I wouldn't be surprised if he's even more involved this week. And to be honest, that's one of my favorite 2 games for the week. I've got in a lot of my lineups, I'm going with a Cousins and Jefferson stack and bringing it back with Odell.
And Gibson on Washington, I've been really perplexed by him. Everybody thought that he was going to be a player that really had a great breakout season. He's beloved by the fantasy community. This year, he just hasn't lived up to his stock.
Well, that's my biggest thing. Is a lot of I think we all kind of considered that he was going to be more involved in the passing game, and so far, he had that one big 75-yard touchdown via the air last week. But on the year, I believe he's only had 6 receptions. So, I don't know that he's the kind of guy that's the kind of offense that he's going to be a 17 to 20 carry type fella. But at the same time, we expected more from the passing game from him. And at the time, it's early in the season. We've only played 3 weeks, so we'll see. But it's different so far than we expected.
Dawson Knox has kind of been a player that has looked pretty good at the tight end. I'm always kind of trying to look for where there might be values, like you said, so you can stack in other positions. Dawson Knox, he's only around 3,600. Is that worthy of an ad there to maybe throw around some money somewhere else?
Yeah, I don't mind Dawson Knox. Of course, as we all know, there's a couple things going against Dawson this week. They're playing the Texans, so the question is, how many pass attempts will they actually need to win this game? They're 17-point favorites. And the second thing is, how many mouths can you actually feed on every given week between Beasley and Diggs and Sanders? I mean, it's just so hard to feed everybody. So he's kind of been through the first 3 weeks. He scored 2 touchdowns, so he kind of falls into that category or touchdown or bust type thing. So I would a name to throw out there. Nobody likes him. Nobody loves him for sure. But Evan Ingram sitting at 3,000, and with both the Giants receivers out this week, both Shepard and Slayton, I could see some targets there.
When I was taking a look at a few matchups, the Vegas against the Chargers one really made a lot of sense to me because Hunter Renfrow is a guy who's been getting a ton of targets. He's not going to have a very high price tag, and the Chargers like to funnel everything underneath. So this could be a game where a slot guy gets a ton of looks. Is Hunter Renfrow a guy we should be taking into consideration this year or this week?
Oh, no doubt. I'll be honest. When it comes to, I know there are some tournaments that they play Sunday, Monday. A lot of times I'll go individual games. So like for tomorrow night, he would be one that I would want to stack in there because he's going to be relatively cheap compared to the stars. For me, it'll be so hard in those single game lineups to put more than like 3 or 4 good players together. So Renfrow will be relatively inexpensive, I think, compared to the others. So why not take a flyer there?
With Bucks in New England, it looks like that's a game where the Bucks have a really great front four. Running may not be a huge advantage for New England, so putting the ball in the air might be a good idea. Jacoby Myers, I'm surprised considering how many targets he got last week with 14, that his price tag wasn't a little higher.
Yeah, they've definitely completely gone away from New England's wide receivers. Of course, Mac Jones hasn't had an outstanding game yet, but he's a rookie, so maybe it's his turn. And like you said, to beat Tampa, they're definitely going to have to go through the air some. So I have no problems with Jacoby Myers.
Mm-hmm.
Cool. All right. So any other big any place else we need to be kind of looking for or any other good values this week before we turn you loose?
Well, I'd like to mention my other stack. It's not cheap, but I actually went with the Seahawks stack of Wilson, and I came back with Metcalf. So that was my other lean. Like I said, it's not cheap, but my recommendation this week is to kind of go cheaper at tight end and defense. Between the Lions and also the Cowboys sitting at 2,600 and less. And you can also find a good number of tight ends sitting at the 3,000 range. Go that direction and save for elsewhere, because I was actually able to fit all that in. My primary guys, as I said, was the Browns, Vikings, but I also was even able to get in Metcalf with that stack and comeback player that I mentioned. So if you go cheap elsewhere, you can pay up at some of your better players. So
DeAndre Swift caught my eye too because, like you said, this Bears defense could be in trouble just considering how much they're going to be on the field. Swift gets a lot of looks in the passing game. Is that an option that is going to work out? Because it feels like Goff is another guy who doesn't like to throw the ball downfield. He's going to dink and dunk. Swift seems like he makes a ton of sense.
Swift's a great option. So that lineup I'm talking about right now, Swift's in that one too. So he's he makes a ton of sense. People kind of underrate Swift, but he's actually the PPR RB4 on the season right now. It may be 3, but I'm pretty sure it's 4. So yeah, that's a great pick.
It feels like he's only going to continue to grow too, because the numbers haven't been fantastic. He's got a lot of points per reception, but once he starts like really feeling himself and kind of breaking out, I think people are going to be surprised at how quickly he rises through the ranks.
Well, that's the big thing. The Lions have to give him. I'm not sure what his ceiling is in regards to carries, but I think he's more capable than what they're giving him an opportunity to do. Because, like you said, everything's coming through the air right now, but they need to give him. I mean, I would certainly think he could average 15 carries a week. I mean, that's not out of the question, I wouldn't think. So
Yeah, absolutely.
All righty, cool. Well, Brian, thank you as always. Always great stuff. Love having you on. So appreciate it. We will talk to you again next week, sir.
thanks for having me on. Y'all have a good day and good luck in everybody's games.
You too.
Y'all
Good luck,
take care.
Brian.
Bye-bye.
All right, so we'll go to commercial. On the backside of that, we will talk a little running backs right there, and then we will move on to the wide receivers. With 5 locations located within the Quad Cities area, Ray's Barbershop has provided first-class service, haircutting, and shaves since 2010. Ray's Barbershop has been voted the Quad Cities' favorite barbershop year after year. Ray's takes tremendous pride in their work and in maintaining the fine art of classic meets modern barbering. Ray's goes above and beyond to make sure our clients' level of satisfaction is met. You won't find the Ray's experience anywhere else. Located in the Belgian neighborhood of 7th Street in Moline, Clint's Draft House Pizza and Grill is home to some of the Quad Cities' best food and drink specials. On Sundays, there's no better place to be. Clint's is serving up 75-cent wings and $4 Bloody Marys all day. And your favorite team playing in those out-of-market games? You'll never miss a second of action on their 10 screens with NFL Sunday Ticket. And after you've had your wing and bloody fix, finish off your football watching experience with one of their famous Quad City style pizzas. And folks, they know pizza. They've been spinning QC style pies for the last 22 years. So make Clint's part of your Sunday football routine. Clint's Draft House Pizza and Grill, 7th Street in Moline. Who doesn't need a solid handcuff on their fantasy squad? Grab a bite to eat at Clint's Draft House while watching the noon games, then head on over across the Moline Rock Island border to the corner tap for some libations during the 3 o'clock games. Every Sunday is fun day at the corner with $3 tall boys, Bloody Marys, Jack Daniels, and $2 PBR drafts. Head into the corner tap, 4018 14th Avenue, Rock Island, and get into the end zone. All righty. So let's take a look at the running box for this week.
You're not going to come back and ruin anything about like Ted Lasso for me this time, are you, Doug?
At the end, I will.
Oh, come on now. Come on, Kid Wonder. You can do this.
So you got to the Kid Wonder piece. Okay, that's good.
Yeah.
Why are you not give me that one. There we go. Okay. Again, horrible tabs. Actually, yeah, one of our, I'm going to have to pull out one of our rapid fires then, because one of the rapid fires is definitely a major spoiler. Week 4 running back. Let's talk fantasy football. Henry Eckler. Eckler's pretty high. I'm surprised to see Eckler that high, to be quite honest. Kamara, Chubb, Harris, Swift, Cook, Jones, Zeke, Montgomery, Gibson, and Taylor. So I would have Eckler probably not that high, and then you seem to be lower on Gibson than Deej got it.
Yeah, I think Gibson still has a little bit left to show, and Jonathan Taylor has kind of been a big disappointment for me this year. I really believe in his talent. It just doesn't feel like it's going to happen this year with all the problems that are going on in quarterback. Quentin Nelson headed to the IR. There's reasons to think Jonathan Taylor is going to have a sophomore slump, but I would be buying back in for next year. If you feel like you started this season off badly, you're 0-3, maybe looking down the barrel at 0-4, maybe start trading some guys, mixing things up. Get Jonathan Taylor on your team for next year.
Yeah, Eckler's a guy that I was surprised at how well, he's always been a pretty good player. I'm just surprised to see him at 2, especially against the Raiders team that's actually playing pretty well. So I'm really kind of surprised to see that one kind of that high up there. Swift against Chicago, again, I don't know. I guess we're going to see about that Bears run defense. Though
the run defense is good, but I think he's going to make most of it up on the actual touches through the air. Goff has a noodle arm, and I think they're kind of babying him because they want to get him up to speed and just kind of not make him do too much. And so he's throwing underneath a lot. That's why earlier we were saying we like Hawkinson, we like Swift. He likes the underneath guys. I can't name one of their wide receivers right now. So the Hawkinson and Swift is going to get, that tandem is going to get a majority of the targets.
I know Amon-Ra St. Brown, and that's it. So
Yeah,
that's only
good
from
luck with
all
that.
my rookie research. So let's see what's on page 2 for us in the running
Any
back
St.
world.
Browns, good luck with that.
Yeah.
The patron
Chris
saint
Carson.
of drops.
Carson, Barkley, Sanders, CEH, Hunt, Chuba Hubbard,
Chuba
Jack
Chuba Chuba.
Hinton. Go. Sorry.
No, Chuba Chuba Chuba.
Chuba Hubbard.
Yeah.
How do we feel about him? Getting the first start, playing an okay Dallas defense. Do we think that he probably won't get the level of touches that McCaffrey's got, but he's going to get that kind of role where he's going to get both passing work and running work.
Mm-hmm. I think that Chuba could be a very good player. I think he's good at doing just about everything, but I just don't buy it. I just don't buy it at this point. And I think that's why a lot of people are looking for somebody else to kind of fill that role at this point. I'm a big fan of Chase Edmonds. I think that he's a better version of Chuba Hubbard, and that offense is rolling right now. So if they needed somebody who could like shock you all of a sudden, I think that would be a good place to look right now.
Fair enough. I know we're past the waiver period, but what kind of waiver droppage would you put on Chuba, on Hubbard? We'll just go with Hubbard.
I was interested. I know in most of my leagues he's going to be owned, but yeah, Royce Freeman I think is a player who's going to make a lot of sense to what the Panthers do. He's going to be more established. He might be a guy who beats him on the snap count, which not only does that diminish the value of Chuba, but it's also going to be just the opportunities aren't going to be there like we think they are. CEH is somebody who's really disappointed so far this year. I would have him a little bit higher. Saquon hasn't looked like himself yet, but this could be another chance at a get well game, even though New Orleans defense has been very good. Zach Moss.
What about our two Broncos running backs that DJ just cannot make up his mind on? They've been 1-2 every week this year.
Well, I think Javonte Williams really set himself apart last week. He got the touchdown. It looks like he's on the way up, and Melvin Gordon's on the way down. So I think that's the only nice way to put that. So I think that's the position that you should be flip-flopping those a little bit. Zach Moss surprises me where he is at, because at 23, he's a guy who's going to find the end zone almost every single week. It doesn't matter how many touches he seems to get. They like him inside the red zone. I was surprised he's not up around that 15-16 range.
I would completely and totally agree with that.
And Mike Davis, we all know we hate him.
Yes, absolutely. All right. On to the last set here. Nyheim Hines, much lower. Somebody in Indy asked for a trade this week, right? I saw that.
I'm not sure about that.
It's the guy that's in between Jonathan Taylor and Hines. There's a.
Oh, it was. Was it Marlon Brown?
Could be
Malcolm Brown. Marlon Mack. You're right. I'm sorry. There we go.
Yes, he's asked for a trade and wants to leave.
Yes.
So I would think that means stock up for Hines, but that's
Hines is their pass catcher. He's a poor man's DeAndre Swift at this point. So it's dependent on what the game is going to look like. Miami probably can't run away from them because of their quarterbacking issues. So this may not be the week for Nyheim Hines, but a really good outing from him last week is probably why he's where he is on DJ's list right here.
Probably. Alexander Madison's checks in at 28. Do you think any chance Dalvin plays today at all?
Probably not. It's hard to tell, but I'm not buying what they're selling at this point. And I think that Baltimore had somebody elevated, Le'Veon Bell. They elevated Le'Veon Bell to the active roster now, so that might hurt Tyson Williams' ability to be the primary back here. Really disappointing outing from him last week, so things might be starting to turn there. So keep an eye on his usage this week, and he might end up being somebody you drop.
And then Tony Pollard, the classic Tony Pollard versus Ezekiel Elliott debate. What do we feel about the split there?
I don't know. It's so hard to tell what Dallas is going to do on any given week because Dallas can do whatever the hell they want on any given week. So that whole thing is terrifying to me. I would just stay away from all of that. Kenyon Drake makes sense to me. They use him in the pass game a lot, so he might be somebody that could outperform his ranking here. And Cordell Patterson, like we were talking with Brian about, he has really kind of shocked everyone with how good he has been this year and the way that they are using him. They're desperate for somebody who can just give them a little bit of a spark, and his speed and just ability to do things in open space allows them a lot of opportunity to do that.
Agreed. Yeah, yeah, Drake's got a lot of potential there as well. I was going to make a comment, and then it went out of my head while I was waiting.
That's okay.
That's okay.
That's DJ's thing usually, Doug, that we make fun of him for.
Yeah. Shady McCoy did retire this week, so poor one out for him.
He helped a lot of fantasy teams along the way, I'm sure, and he took me to a fantasy championship the year that he was running really strong back in 2016, I want to say 2017. Yeah.
Yeah, in his heyday in Philly. Yeah. He was definitely an early pick there. Trey Sermon, jury still out on him, you think?
Very much so. It just, last week's game, it's hard to think of how anything went other than the last 2 minutes of that game, where you spend it thinking about how smart Kyle Shanahan is and how he's one of the best coaches in the league. And then at the same time, you're also leaving Aaron Rodgers 40 seconds, and that's enough for Aaron Rodgers to be Aaron Rodgers and destroy your whole week right there.
Aaron friggin' Rodgers.
Oh, right. Darnell Mooney was upgraded to active for today, Doug. There you go. Well, Bears offense is going to be taking off 6 points at least.
Now, let's not get crazy now. 5 tops, because they'll get the safety. All right, that'll take us to the end of that segment. We'll go ahead. We'll take a quick break here, and then we'll jump on to the wide receivers on the other side of that as soon as I find the sheet. Bad Boys Pizza isn't hard to find. Now serving in 3 different locations: Moline, Davenport, and downtown Davenport at River Music Experience. Their restaurant and bar stay open late, not only on weekends, but weekdays too. Bad Boys specializes in Quad City style pizzas and daily specials, so be sure to keep an eye out for those. They also offer food carryout and pizza delivery options at your convenience. They have a full bar at all 3 locations with 24 taps in Moline, 32 taps in Davenport, and 20 in downtown Davenport. They are also hosting exciting events such as the Quad City Storm, NFL Sunday ticket giveaways, and other sports viewing parties. Bad Boys always has the coldest beer, and the atmosphere is always welcoming. For great people, drinks, and Quad City style pizza, choose Bad Boys. Durham Remodeling, who has been serving the Quad Cities area since 1973. With nearly 50 years of excellence on their track record, you'll see why it's so easy to trust their experts when it comes to all your home improvement projects. Durham Remodeling's work is 100% guaranteed, so you can rest assured that you're getting the best service around. Call 309-786-6715 for all your roofing, siding, flooring, windows, and painting needs. That's Durham Remodeling, 309-786-6715. It's Sunday Fun Day over at Frick's Tap. Iowa's second oldest bar is guaranteed to have your favorite team on one of their 13 TV screens with NFL Sunday Ticket. Get on into Frick's now, where they'll be joined by Smoked Out Smokehouse every Sunday. And boy, does that menu look great. Barbecue smoked ribs, pork chops, wings, you name it, you can get it during your football game over at Frick's. So for Frick's sake, head into Frick's, 1402 West 3rd Street, Davenport. I managed to do that without stumbling through that too badly.
We're going to have to let DJ up off the mat about that.
No.
No.
I'm out of practice. I haven't done these in over a year. He does these every year.
Doug, we talk about practice. We're talking about practice, not a game. Practice.
Speaking of the Ted Lasso scene where he reenacts that to Jamie. Great stuff.
Yeah, it was really good because it was funny and at the same time it was very poignant.
Yeah, it was great. All right, wide receiver rankings. Nothing crazy here. He's actually got Tyreek Hill ranked probably reasonably this week. I'm shocked.
Yeah. Well, you know how
Allen.
DJ likes to jam it into Pittsburgh, so that's really what this is about, Doug, is he's trying to stick it to Pittsburgh more than he is trying to give Devontae Adams what he deserves.
Yeah, that I could believe. How upset is he going to be if they go 1-3?
Pittsburgh?
No, Kansas City.
Oh, he's on suicide watch as it is right now, Doug. So
I know.
if they go 1-3, I think we're in for a lot of problems.
And he was
They
in St.
can't
Louis
lose
and they
to
lost
Philly,
last
though,
night to the
can they?
Cubs. So
there's no way they lose to Philly, though, right?
I wouldn't think so, but it's the NFL. Any given Sunday is definitely on the table.
Yeah.
All right. Only one here. Again, maybe Lockett might be a little high. I would have Nuke higher probably. And I don't know about Ridley, man. I don't know about that whole Atlanta thing.
They're just trouble, and I think Ridley hasn't lived up to what people expected him to be this year. He's still been very good. I think DJ Moore deserves a little more credit. You look at the way the Carolina Panthers have been using their wide receivers, and DJ Moore has been the focal point of that passing attack. Robbie Anderson last year was a guy who really helped supplement a lot of fantasy lineups by being valuable and being a find. This year, Robbie Anderson has not existed because DJ Moore has been so good and they're feeding him the ball to just do what he needs to do out there. So if that trend continues, I think DJ Moore is set up for probably his best season of his career.
Well, just like how we were talking, how the Rams wide receivers seem to play to Stafford's strengths, Moore and Darnold seem to be a very nice pairing together as well.
Yeah. Yeah, and I think Darnold just needs a guy that he can depend on. If you go back to when he was in New York, the one good thing about Sam Darnold fantasy-wise was that he was looking for Jamison Crowder. He was hunting Jamison Crowder. That's what elevated Jamison Crowder to such a high standard, even though that offense was trash. So if you take that and the same thing ends up happening with the Panthers, now that Darnold is there and DJ Moore is that guy instead of Jamison Crowder, that's a lot more talent. That's a lot more ability. So those things are going to continue to escalate and make him even better.
I couldn't agree with that more. I think that's very, very astute. There was a little talk last week about just looking at Stephon Diggs here. That the chemistry between Diggs and Allen seems to be a little bit off this year. You got any concerns, any qualms about that?
Probably not. It's going to right itself when it needs to. And I think just seeing Allen put up a big game last week should have alleviated a lot of those concerns. This is an offense that doesn't have to rely on the pass, though. I think that's what's going to hinder Diggs as much as anything, is that they can just decide they're going to run people over for a game. They don't have to put it up every single time, kind of the way that Minnesota has been doing this year, with Cook going to likely be injured and out today. You're going to see a lot more of those balls get put in the air instead of Madison getting the touches. So I think that is an area for some concern. Diggs last year also was kind of on a I'm going to show you what I can do thing, where after he felt like he was cast off from Minnesota, he's out to prove his point. What's he playing for this year? So it just feels like he can't live up to last year. He's still going to be an incredible talent and a really good wide receiver. But at this point, I don't feel like he has that motivation that he had last year.
Yeah, that'll come in the playoffs, I think, because I think now, like you said, it's not about personal. Now he's chasing the title. I think he'd be.
Well, CD Lamb also, I think there's a reason for concern just because you look over at the other side of the ball and our other side of the field, and Amari Cooper is so good that week to week, CD Lamb is going to get touches, but you have to worry that there's going to be those clunkers in there that are just going to get you at the wrong time.
Agree. And then you throw Gallup in there, and
yeah.
And if they decide to actually run the ball that week, then yeah, it's.
Then who's going to run the ball though, Doug? Who's going to run that ball?
They've got a couple of guys that can, whether they want to or not. That's a different story. All right, let's see what's got on the second page here. Godwin, Williams, Scary Terry, Debo, Cooper, Thielen. Obviously, no Julio this week, so you can pull him out of there. Allen Robinson ever going to get on track while we're complaining about our Bears? Hopefully.
I don't know, because Mitch Trubisky loved Allen Robinson, and Mitch Trubisky isn't with the Bears anymore. So I just the fact that anytime Mitch ran into trouble, he wanted to throw it to Allen Robinson, and that connection isn't there anymore. They're going to have to find a way to get him involved. He's too talented not to get him involved. But it's Matt Nagy's offense, Doug, that they can't run anything more than a 10-yard curl route. So they're going to catch it for about 8 yards. This week, I took the under on Mooney getting, I think it was around 40 yards. Because I was like, he's going to have 7 catches to get more than 40 yards in Matt Nagy's offense. So I'm at my wit's end at everything that they are trying to do or what they want to do. And every third down is like the most baffling call I've ever seen in my entire life. So who knows at this point? Jimmy Graham got 2 snaps last week. 2 snaps. And I know you didn't have a lot of time to be on the field, but Jimmy Graham needs more than 2 snaps, especially if you're not going to throw it to your kid tight end that you're supposed to be handing the reins off to.
Wonder kid.
Yeah, well, another wonder kid there. Mike Williams, I'm surprised, is on the second page here. He is the wide receiver in the league that has the most targets right now coming into this week. You got to buy into him, DJ. He's been fantastic. He has the size. He has the speed to be a guy who's a top 5 wide receiver. To see him on the second page here is kind of disappointing. Same with Terry McLaurin. This is a great matchup for Terry. Atlanta can't cover anyone. You heard me, I think it was in week 2, where I was making Patrick Peterson and the other Minnesota Vikings cornerbacks, just like they needed to be traded to Atlanta as fast as possible because they're just so bad that they deserve to be on the Atlanta Falcons. And the Atlanta Falcons are not getting any better at cornerback. They're getting beat up there too.
That's facts. Okay. So that will take us to the end of that page. Let's see what we got.
Julio is also hurt, so you can scratch him off the previous page too.
Yep. No Claypool.
We'll play the fastest growing game in America, Doug, with AJ Brown and Julio Jones out. Who are the Tennessee Titans wide receivers? Who are those guys? I don't know who they are.
I made the joke on Twitter this week that they're going to move Tannehill to wide receiver as their wide receiver 1 and just play the backup quarterback. Because I think that might actually, honestly, that might be their best option.
Let's see. I'm actually looking it up now. Josh Reynolds.
There's a wild DJ sighting.
Josh Reynolds. That's a no good. Chester Rogers. Yeah. Is it okay if they give Derrick Henry 50 carries this week? Because I think that might happen.
I think so, and I think that I'm totally okay with that in there as well. Antonio Brown back off of the COVID list. He was tearing it up before he went on there. He was tearing up the first couple of weeks, and then he took a week off. You think that affects him at all? I mean, it is a respiratory thing.
Yeah, I would. Even guys who had it during the preseason, I can't remember. It was during one game I was watching this year. You saw him over on the sideline getting oxygen. And so it's something that I'm sure if he's good enough to play, he'll be fine. but there's probably going to be some repercussions in there too. Like we said in the DFS segment, I like Jacoby Myers. I like where he's at. 14 targets last week. It probably won't be that again this week, but he is a guy that is essentially the wide receiver for this team. You don't have a lot of other options if you're having to put the ball in the air, and Tampa Bay could get way out in front in this thing and kind of run away with it. So that's a play that I like a lot. Corey Davis has been getting a lot of targets too. So is Cole Beasley. A lot of these guys on this page are ones that I think you could probably try to get away with in a sneaky DFS play. Even Devontae Smith makes a lot of sense because he's been getting a lot of targets. He looks good so far this year. Robbie Anderson doesn't deserve to be anywhere near this high because of his production this year hasn't matched what I guess you're putting him here on reputation. That's the only thing I can really come up with at this point.
Yeah. Robbie Anderson or Darnell Mooney?
Oof. I would take Mooney because prior to last week's debacle, Mooney was getting a lot of targets. He was getting more targets than Allen Robinson was, and it was very odd. I guess it's just because maybe teams were bracketing Allen Robinson, but at the same time, maybe they're working towards some sort of handoff to Mooney being the primary wide receiver because they're already resigned to the fact that they're not going to re-sign Allen Robinson because they're the Bears and they do everything wrong.
They're not going to think that far ahead because they're the Bears. So
only the Bears can be this bad.
I did see a joke. I think it was on Reddit this week that because Bears bought the all that land in Arlington Heights.
Right.
But they're like, don't worry, that move will take forever because they're only going to be able to move at 1.1 yards at a time.
Yes. Yeah.
So.
I saw that as well. If they move the 67 yards a day, it would take 7 years to get there. So good job, Bears. Laughing stock of literally everything. Who's Antonio Brown on Tampa Bay? Oh, I'm sorry. I got you now. I thought if DJ messed up. I got it.
No. That was just your brain.
No, my brain broke. I'm sorry.
That's okay. Give yourself a little caffeine. Tell you what, we'll go to break. You can get some caffeine. And then on the other side of this, we will talk tight ends. We also need to talk injury report. Would you mind trying to piece that together?
I'll just shout it at you, Doug.
Babble here for a bit.
Before we get to that, I just wanted to say Brandon Cooks, I think, doesn't get as much credit as he deserves. Mm-hmm. That's one that I think is a real sneaky play because you've got an amateur quarterback starting for the Texans right now. So when you take a look at him and see what he's been able to do, and with Cooks, he's been able to maintain that connection. His target rate hasn't dropped, even though everyone knows he's going to be getting the ball and that his quarterback isn't very good. When they're putting the ball in the air, it's going into Cooks' hands, and he could be somebody that I think is going to be a good play the rest of the year. This week, it's a very tough matchup for him because the Jets have been great. Or I'm sorry, not the Jets, but the defense he's playing has been great. So it's not a good week for Cooks, but going on the rest of the season, he's been a fantastic play, and I would definitely trust him.
Yeah, especially in that AFC South that isn't like overly great. Especially he gets to play Indy twice. So if they haven't already played them once, I don't even know their schedule. But cool.
It is Indy this week. That's why I was thinking it was a good matchup for him. The stats say it's not, but he does get to play Indy twice. This week is the first one for him.
Okay. Cool. All right. So with that, we'll go to break, and then we will hit tight ends and the injury report on the other side. With 5 locations located in the Quad Cities area, Ray's Barbershop has provided first-class service, haircutting, and shaves since 2010. Ray's Barbershop has been voted the Quad Cities' favorite barbershop year after year. Ray's takes tremendous pride in their work in maintaining the fine art of classic meets modern barbering. Ray's goes above and beyond to make sure our clients' level of satisfaction is met. You won't find the Ray's experience anywhere else. Located in the Belgium neighborhood of 7th Street in Moline, let's try that again. From the top. Located in the Belgian neighborhood of 7th Street in Moline, Clint's Draft House Pizza and Grill is home to some of the Quad City's best food and drink specials. On Sundays, there's no better place to be. Clint's is serving up 75-cent wings and $4 Bloody Marys all day. And your favorite team playing in those out-of-market games? You'll never miss a second of the action on one of their 10 screens with NFL Sunday Ticket. And after you've had your wing and bloody fix, finish your football watching experience off with one of their famous Quad City style pizzas. And folks, they know pizza. They've been spinning QC style pies for the last 22 years. So make Clint's part of your Sunday football routine. Clint's Draft House Pizza and Grill, 7th Street in Moline. Who doesn't need a solid handcuff on their fantasy squad? Grab a bite to eat at Clint's Draft House while watching the noon games, then head on over across the Moline Rock Island border to the corner tap for some libations during the 3 o'clock games. Every Sunday is fun day at the corner with $3 Tall Boys, Bloody Marys, and Jack Daniels and $2 PBR drafts. Head to the corner tap, 4018 14th Avenue, Rock Island, and get into the end zone. Okay, and we are back. Let's take a look at what nonsense he's got here in the tight endish world. Kelsey at number 1 at Philly.
Really shocking that he puts Kelsey up at number 1.
I know, right? Waller, Kittle, Hawk, Andrews.
Darren Waller still leads all wide receivers and tight ends, running backs at targets right now. So Darren Waller is going to be a pretty safe play. Like we were saying in the DFS segment, that the Chargers like to funnel everything underneath. So this might be a good game for Renfro. It might be a good game for Waller too, if they're going to like make that middle nice and soft and allow them to attack that middle. I know DJ always enjoys having a very soft middle.
Yes. Gronk is also out for multiple weeks with fractured ribs. No surprise there. You draft Gronk knowing you're not going to have him for part of the season. You just don't know which part of the season it is when you draft him.
Right.
So we are in the injured Gronk part of the year. Adjust accordingly.
Mm-hmm. Kyle Pitts hasn't lived up to his expectation. It's something I've been saying since week 1 is most tight ends take a year to adjust to the league, even when they're immensely talented. Kyle Pitts is going to have games where he looks like he's going to be great, and then he's going to have games last week where he's lucky to touch around 4 points. So just make sure that you know that it's not a gimme, set it and forget it with Kyle Pitts. You should be looking for better matchups and better opportunities if you have him on your team and you're rostering him. And like I also said earlier, Tyler Higbee is somebody who kind of stands out to me in this game. It looks like he would be a very good play. I'm sure.
What do you think about Robert Tonyan? I've seen a lot of things that people are saying that he's not been great this year, which is true. Do you think he's ever going to have a bounce back thing, or was he just a 1-year wonder?
I think that Rodgers falls in love with guys, and then he burns those guys just as quickly once he falls out of love with them. Once he's out of love with you, then you're dead to him, and that's, I think, where Robert Tonyan is at. Now, there could be a game where he finds him and falls back in love with him again, but I don't see that happening right away. I don't see him being a top 10 tight end, probably even the rest of this year. It's just going to be a tough one for him, I think. Dallas Goedert, though, I'm sure DJ is like shouting at his phone or whatever he's using to watch the show today about how Kansas City is terrible at covering tight ends, and this will probably be a good matchup for Dallas Goedert. I know the Honey Badger is a fantastic player, but there's still probably going to be opportunities for Goddard in this game.
Yeah, I think so. You think Ertz pops his head up this week?
I don't know. It feels so hard to trust Ertz at all. It feels like that's just a name that we recognize, and that's the only reason that we're still talking about him is what he's done in the past.
Mm-hmm.
If he was tight end X and he was putting up the same kind of production, we don't know who he is.
That's fair. That's fair. His wife's got a better career than he does at this point. All right. What's the injury stitch look like out there, sir?
Oh, it's just a wasteland like it always is. When you're taking a look at Washington against the Falcons today, Antonio Gibson is just going to be active. It looks like they haven't had anybody on the offensive side of the ball that is a major out. For the Falcons, Russell Gage is out. And then Browns Vikings, Greg Newsome is out. Their cornerback, who any quarterback on the Browns is a major loss, but he's incredibly fast. That secondary is probably good enough to still make up for it. Odell was a full practice this week, which is great for him. Then you look at the Vikings, and they are looking pretty good. Smith Marset, former Hawkeye, is out in that one. Kirk Cousins is questionable every week because of his brain. And then you have Texans Bills. It looks like right there, Danny Amendola is out. Deshaun Watson, very surprising that he is out. The Bills, it looks like nobody of real consequence on the offensive side of the ball. Jordan Poyer, the outstanding safety for them, is out this week. Darius Slayton is then ruled out for the Giants in their slate with the Saints. Looks like Sterling Shepard is also out, so you could play another fast-growing America's favorite game of who is a wide receiver on the New York Giants. On the Saints side of things, it looks like just their offensive line is beat up here. Eric McCoy is out with a calf injury. Terran Armstead is out with an elbow at tackle. For the Chiefs, DJ will be happy to know Orlando Brown has been a full practice and he is good to go. Nobody major is out for the Chiefs. On the Eagles side, it looks like there's nobody of consequence there. Christian McCaffrey has been ruled out with a hamstring. We knew about that. Tony Pollard is a full go. On the Dallas side of things, for the Lions, it looks like Trey Flowers is out, but that's the only major injury for the Lions. For the Bears, we're looking at Joel Iyaniwe. I never get that right. He is out, but everyone else is good to go. They haven't even ruled out Andy Dalton from what this looks like. He is questionable on the NFL site.
Goldman's been active all week, so Eddie Goldman's season.
Well, no, he's active, Doug. What is happening?
He's active. He's playing. It's crazy.
They must have found him, kidnapped him, and drove him to the stadium.
I think they missed Miyagi.
AJ Brown and Julio Jones are out, as we talked about earlier. And on the Jets side of things, it looks like Jeff Smith is out. Elijah Moore at wide receiver is out with a concussion. This is a big pile of nothing going on here. And the Seahawks and 49ers, there is Rashard Penny, who is out for the Seahawks, and Brandon Shell is also out. I'm going to take a look at the 49ers real quick to see what their running back situation looks like. And they listed Elijah Mitchell as questionable. I wouldn't run him out there. If you were looking at starting him, look elsewhere. Josh Norman is doubtful.
Where did Richard Sherman sign somewhere this week? Where did he sign? Tampa.
He ended up signing with Tampa, yes.
Okay. I remember flashes of stuff throughout the week, but I don't remember.
Same, Doug. Same. I just remember the meme. The memes were flying around out there too. With Packers 49ers, the only real consequential player who is out is Marquez Valdez-Scantling, but At this point, watch around like 2:30 when they actually have to announce.
Yeah.
So that'll
Don't
do
worry,
it for the
he
new
got
ones.
his boy back from Houston. So
Yeah.
whatever his name was. Can't remember what the guy that Rodgers begged for to come back.
Oh, Randall Cobb.
Him,
He's
yes.
been so good.
Yes. They're good. They're good. They got Randall Cobb.
Hey, don't worry. Rodgers just wants to bring back Randall Cobb, Clay Matthews, who probably hasn't played in a couple of years, and, Jordy Nelson, who also almost went to the Raiders and almost immediately retired after 8 games because he was so bad. But Aaron Rodgers is mad that he didn't get to make the decisions to keep those guys around.
Yep. He wasn't his. Yep. He's gonna be mad. He's probably mad at them that they didn't consult him about their retirement either.
Well, I wouldn't consult him either, considering his haircut is so bad now.
Did you see somewhere where he said that was part of his Halloween costume and he's been working on it for a year?
Okay.
I don't know if I buy that, but that's at least a funny answer.
I feel like it has more to do with his new granola girlfriend a little bit. So,
who's like half his age?
Yeah. I mean, when you have to get the RC Cola of Hunger Games spin-off movies, Doug, you just got to go with that. Doesn't matter. You find love where you can find it.
That's true. Found mine in the curtain section of Sears. True story. All right.
It's curtains for you, Doug.
Yeah, pretty much. All right. She's probably watching. I'm a dead man, so it's been nice knowing you guys. I'll be dead by the time kickoff comes around. All right, so let's take we got some questions coming in, so please make sure you get those in the rest of the way. If you have any more questions, we are happy to take those. We're a little light on those this week because we have DJ out banging the drum for those. So get your questions in, and then we will do the rapid fires on the other side of. We still got some time here. Anything
Doug,
else you want to talk about?
I want to know a question from you real quick. It's something that I think we need to not have DJ around for, because DJ has to be sent out of the room for the big boy conversations.
Okay.
So with the Chiefs dropping 2 in a row now, do you think, looking back to the Super Bowl now, that the Tampa Bay Buccaneers gave everybody a roadmap to beating the Chiefs?
Absolutely. It's a copycat league, and as soon as they see a way to defeat you, once somebody's figured it out, they're just going to keep doing it until you adjust.
I think Todd Bowles put together an amazing game plan of, we're not going to let Tyreek Hill beat us. And you can have your underneath stuff to Kelsey all day. You're not going to get one big play over the top. It looks similar to the Lovie Smith style of Bears defense that they used to play, where we're just going to make you have as many plays on offense as possible, and somebody's going to do something dumb.
Yep. You're going to dink and dunk, and you're going to eventually mess up. And that's you've got to string together a dozen plays in a row, and we don't think you can do that.
Well, 2 or 3 of those plays, if you look back at that Super Bowl, are Mahomes making an amazing play that could have easily won them the game, but weird things happening, like the throw where he's falling down and it hits Tyreek Hill in the helmet, and just stuff like that. It's just all over the place. If you look at that game, and he ran for 600 yards or something like that. 600. He didn't run rush for those yards, but how much he ran on a bad foot through that entire game was 600 yards. And it's just ridiculous to look back at and think about how we need to go to these extremes to try to slow this guy down.
Yeah, it's because he's been playing the lucky factor. I mean, he makes throws that nobody should be able to make, and they're being completed. And eventually, you've got to think that magic's got to run out at some point.
Well, it doesn't happen to Steph Curry. You watch Steph Curry over and over again, and you think, ooh, that's a really bad shot, right up until it goes in. Mm-hmm. And you just wait for Steph Curry to make those shots, and you don't even register them as being extraordinary anymore because you're so used to it. And I think that's where we're starting to get with Mahomes is we're just so used to him doing ridiculous things that it doesn't even like enter into our brains that we're watching something extraordinary there.
Yeah, that's fair. It becomes more commonplace as people see it too. Like you're already seeing other quarterbacks trying to do the throw off the wrong foot and behind the back and all that kind of crap that he does. And that same thing happened with Odell when he made that crazy one-handed catch in
New York.
2 years back when he was with the Giants.
Yeah.
Then everybody in the league started to try to catch the ball with 3 fingers, and now there's high school kids trying to catch the ball with 3 fingers.
Right.
So I mean, it just once you see it once, then they just kind of keep snowballing from there.
Do it until they stop you.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And the more that they see it in practice, then the more that they can stop it in the game.
Yeah. Well, you've got Donovan Peoples-Jones last week making one of the best catches I think I've ever seen in the league. And Donovan Peoples-Jones is a fine wide receiver. That's how I would designate him. He's fine. He's a guy. If you have somebody make that play, let's say, just 20 years ago when we're watching those games, that's extraordinary. Chris Carter was one of the best wide receivers in the league, but he was a unicorn at the time because he was the guy who could make those toe-tapping catches on the sideline that are commonplace now that we expect every receiver to make.
Yeah, because they changed the rule to force them to have to do crazy stuff like that. Where before, you had to get 2 feet in, but if the quarterback shoved you out,
right,
then you didn't have to get your feet down. Well, now they're saying it doesn't matter if you're shoved or not. You have to get your feet down. So they're basically doing all kinds of aerial acrobatics and ballet on the sidelines to try and make sure that they get 2 toes down.
Right. So offense continues to move forward because we relax the rules, because we want more offense, because we do fantasy football and we want that offense and we want our points and we want our players to play. So if you fall on a quarterback, even if you had every right to sack him, that's a penalty. If you touch a wide receiver as he's coming out of his break, that's a penalty. If you lead with the crown of your helmet, that's a penalty. If a running back leads with his helmet, that is never a penalty.
Nope. And the same thing that hands to the face or grabbing the face mask for a defensive player is a major no-no. And then stiff arms to the face by a running back and a quarterback are perfectly fine.
Doug, let's just be old for the rest of the show and talk about things we don't like. Hey, why are there so many defenders out there with single-digit numbers? I can't figure out who's who.
Exactly. These dang kids and their modern uniform numbers should all be block letters. Can't read it from the press box. All right, let me go to commercial, and then we'll get to the questions and the complaining on the other side of that. All right, where are my live reads? Here we go. Bad Boys Pizza isn't hard to find, and now serving in 3 different locations: Moline, Davenport, and downtown Davenport at River Music Experience. Their restaurant and bar stay open late, and not only on weekends, but weekdays too. Bad Boy specializes in Quad City style pizzas and daily specials, so be sure to keep an eye out for those. They also offer food carry out, and pizza delivery options at your convenience. They have a full bar at all 3 locations with 24 taps in Moline, 32 taps in Davenport, and 20 at the downtown location. They also host exciting events such as Quad City Storm, NFL Sunday ticket giveaways, and other sports viewing parties. Bad Boys always has the coldest beer, and the atmosphere is always welcoming. For great people, drinks, and Quad City style pizza, choose Bad Boys. It's Sunday Fun Day over at Frick's Tap. Iowa's second oldest bar is guaranteed to have your favorite team on one of their 13 TV screens with NFL Sunday ticket. Get on into Frick's now, where they will be joined by Smoked Out Smokehouse every Sunday. And boy, does that menu look good. Barbecue smoked ribs, pork chops, wings, you name it, you can get it during your football game over at Frick's. So for Frick's sake, head into Frick's, 1402 West 3rd Street in Davenport. All right, let me see if we've got anybody else talking about the questionos.
And the Chuck Paganos.
Yes, them too.
Oh, one name that didn't come up today that I think is kind of a sneaky play that might be interesting. Braxton Berrios on the New York Jets has put up a lot of targets the last couple of weeks. He's not going to have the name recognition of somebody like Corey Davis, but he's put up similar numbers. If he continues to get a lot of touches, he could be a sneaky play if you're looking for DFS, or a guy maybe on the waiver wire that you could just bench and see what happens.
Yeah. He had a little cachet coming out of college, but really kind of hasn't done it in the pros. So, all right, let's take a look at. Oh, yes, that would be good. Chris, there you are.
Hey,
you be hiding.
I like
All right,
being a
let's take
disembodied
look at
voice.
some of the questions. First one up from Mr. Jordan Kernan. I have Kittle, but he doesn't play until the afternoon games. Any word on if he's playing today, and should I play my backup tight end instead, just in case of in-game injury?
Who's the backup tight end would be my question.
Yeah. I say he's one of those guys that you roll him out there unless you hear that he's not going to play. I roll the dice and play him.
I think that makes a lot of sense. I haven't really heard too much about Kittle really missing this game, so I would think that he would be good to go. His status right now is questionable. I think that if it was doubtful, I would have a different opinion, but if it's questionable, I'm good with that.
Okay. Shane Newbanks wants to know who wins the week 4 matchup, DJ or Shane. I think we all know that that's Shane.
Mm-hmm. I got to play DJ this week too.
Craig DeVries, longtime listener, first-time caller, wants to know Cousins or Kyler this week.
I would always go with Kyler.
Yeah, I feel like that's the right answer. More ceiling.
Yeah, I think Kirk is due for a regression, and I don't want to be on that train when it goes right over the tracks.
Or right over Kirk.
Yeah.
All right, and then our standard questions from Jordan Rang, a little light from Jordan this week. You want Bobby Trees or Brandon Cooks?
Cooks.
I think we established that earlier. The Cooks is your play
The
there.
wheel is the only reason that I'm changing my mind a little bit there. I love Robert Woods. I've always loved Robert Woods, but I think that Cooks is going to get a million targets in comparison to Woods, where you just don't know, and Cooper Kupp is there. So he's going to get those touchdowns.
I love how everybody always says Cooper Kupp. He doesn't have two names. He has one. Cooper Kupp.
Cooper Kupp.
Cooper Kupp.
Kind of like Chris Steele, where it just ends and it just starts with the next part. Chris Steele.
Yeah. Doug Green's the same way. Just right there.
Yep. GG. Good game, Doug.
Yep. Juju or Sutton this week?
Sutton.
I still feel like he's the wide receiver one there. All right, and then Trey Sermon or Darrell Henderson? That's a good question.
Henderson. I think they trust him way too much in LA, and he's going to get a lot of looks.
See, they gave Sony more touches last week than I anticipated them giving him. So I think he's actually chewing into some of that. So I'm going to go Sermon here.
Okay. I think that's a good play because I bet against Sony Michel to hit I think it was 50 yards just because the Bucks are so good up front. And I thought he was going to get 10 touches, just like he said. And he ended up having a pretty good day.
So that means this week he won't see the field at all.
Yeah. Doug, it's called now I'm blanking on his name, the wide receiver with the Arizona Cardinals that we both love that was...
Oh, Rondale Moore?
Yeah. More, give me more. It's going real bad when you start him.
Yes. Okay, so rapid fires that I wrote this week, so they are going to be terrible. So, because I didn't realize how much thought DJ actually puts into these, but I will never admit that.
Doug, he doesn't put thought into these. He reads other people's stuff and he steals their questions.
That's true. I was making this up on my own at 9:30 this morning. So, all right. Here's the first one: Tannehill completions to guys you've heard of, or Zach Wilson picks in this game. Which is more?
I've heard of Josh Reynolds. And who was the other one? Chester Rogers?
Yeah, I think so.
I've heard of him, I guess. So I got to go the Tannehill one.
I'm going to go to the picks. I still say that's it's 3+, and he's been averaging that.
So I feel so bad being mean to him now because it seems like he has a chance to be good, but that is just the worst situation for him to possibly be in. It was nice when he could hide at BYU and nobody had to watch it.
Yeah.
Kind of like Urban. It was nice when you could hide at those college towns where everybody carried water for you. But once you're out in the light of day, hoo boy, signing Greg Doyle was not a good idea. Hoo boy, having somebody dance on your lap was not a good idea.
Oh, you saw that too. I was going to bring that up.
Yeah. Urban gonna Urban.
Yep.
His wife said that nonetheless.
Rushing yards this week, Patty Mahomes or Jalen Hurts?
Oh. Mahomes. That's easy.
All right. More catches, DJ Moore or Amari Cooper? This one's actually semi-serious.
More. Give me more.
Give me more. All right. Who has a better day? And you can define better day however you wish. Better day, Daniel Jones or Jameis?
Daniel Jones.
I still think it's Jameis, but
there's too much variation in the whole Jameis thing where it could be like, oh, he looks good. Oh my God, he's Jameis Winston.
Yeah, there's a whole lot of ugly on both sides there.
Yeah.
All right. Fewer incompletions, Baker or Kirk?
Baker.
Yeah, I think so. All right. More yards, Swift or Montgomery?
Rushing or just overall?
Overall.
Swift. Rushing, I'd go Montgomery.
I'm thinking Montgomery there, but that's just the homer in me, I think. All right.
They forgot about him again last week, Doug. They rushed him into like 4 or 5 people like a couple times because the line didn't block in the correct direction, and then they stopped doing any of that.
First carry of the week went for 10 yards, and then just nothing after that.
How can they get him on the field, Doug, when they have to go empty every time?
that coaching staff, it's like talking to DJ. It just makes me roll my eyes.
Well, they have good offensive minds there. It's just blocked by somebody who wants to do whatever he wants to do out there.
Yep. How many sacks this week for AJ Epinesa? Who are the Bills playing this week? The Bills are playing Houston. So how many times is he going to get Davis Mills?
I would go with 1 just because I feel like with a quarterback of Mills' caliber that they're going to try to get the ball out of his hand really quick.
I feel in 2 there. And the only reason I went with Epinesa and not what was his name? Because I felt like people wouldn't know his name, but then I forgot it, so it doesn't matter. So I guess I was right with that. I still don't have a question for Indy at Miami because it's terrible. Would you bother watching this game if it was the only game on?
That is a great question, Doug. No, I would not watch that game if it was the only game on. It does feel like a Thursday night game to a degree. Over under, how many quarterbacks do we see play in this game? We'll set the line at 2.
Oh, there's an easy 3. There's going to be 3.
You think we're going to get a 3?
Yeah.
All right.
Yeah,
I like that
not
one.
making to the end of this thing.
I like the end of that.
More catches, Scary Terry or Ridley?
Always go with Terry.
Fair. More yards, Lockett or Kittle?
Lockett.
Yeah, I think Lockett. Let's hopefully he has a big week this week. More passing yards, Kyler or Stafford?
Kyler.
Stafford. Number of sacks for TJ Watt versus Rodgers?
0.
Oh, no. He gets him at least once.
Wait, say that again.
More number of sacks for TJ Watt versus Aaron Rodgers.
Who the Packers playing? They're playing the Steelers?
Pittsburgh.
Oh, okay. No, okay. Yeah, I get where you're going. This is still 0.
Okay. You're wrong, but okay.
That's fine. That you're right, Doug. That offensive line is trash, but Aaron Rodgers is out for Aaron Rodgers, so he's going to get rid of that ball when he gets the chance.
Yeah. He's been out for Aaron Rodgers for like the last 5 years, though.
No, people are just figuring this out during this offseason, though. It's news to people.
Yeah, I guess. Okay, where were we? More rushing yards, Tyson or Javonte Williams?
Williams.
I think they're both Williams.
Williams and Williams. See, that's why it's the easy pick, Doug. Javonte.
Javonte. Yeah, I think it's Javonte, too, after what you said earlier today. How many touchdowns does Brady toss versus New England?
3.
All of them. All right. How quickly should Chris catch up on Ted Lasso?
Doug.
Tuesday, man. Tuesday. You got till Tuesday.
I'll watch one of them tonight.
Just call in sick to work tomorrow and just finish them off. They're only like 40 minutes.
I
They don't
know.
take that long.
I got the Coach Beard one coming up tonight, Doug. I'm looking forward to it.
Oh, I hated that one. That's the only episode of the series I didn't like.
Oh, now I'm scared. I'll never watch them now, Doug. Thanks.
Oh, great. All right. And then the last question of the week. How great was this show without DJ?
You know what? There were some rough patches here and there, but overall, I didn't hear mindless chatter for a long period of time. So I gotta say, pretty good.
Yeah, I know. This was pretty smooth.
2 thumbs up.
All right. That'll take us to the end of the nonsense for this week. So we want to thank our primary sponsor, Mobile Party Experience, as always, for sponsoring the show. We want to thank DJ for not showing up this week. So for Chris, I am Doug, and we will see y'all next week.